wanted to do a response to a new video by Rick Beato called The Death of Music Genres. I don't always agree with things that Rick talks about or some of his opinions and takes, but he's a really insightful and thoughtful creator that makes a lot of pretty interesting videos about a lot of topics, and this one stuck out to me because it's a topic I've discussed in the past kind of peripherally, but never just tackled head on. And I think a big point that he brings up in his video is what kind of inspired me to make this, where he talked about how in the past there were always some very clearly defined trends that came from music and impacted the culture in terms of aesthetic and fashion, where you could define different decades by their specific style. He brought up examples like 2000s pop, he brought up examples like 90s grunge, glam metal scene, so on and so forth. And it got me wondering, why exactly is that? Why exactly are music genres considered more dead than ever? And is this something that is true or not? I hate to be annoying, but my answer is both yes and no. The first thing I want to point out is I feel like in terms of aesthetics and fashion things, the attention span of people clinging to fashion trends have sort of decreased over time, and it's also made more of a turn towards individualistic fashion choices as opposed to greater sort of trends. You usually see an artist come around that people try to pattern themselves after, the Harry Styles of the world, the Billie Eilishes of the world, the Lil Nas X's of the world, whatever it may be, as well as like a lot of K-pop bands. And so people's hyperfixation artists that they tend to be obsessive towards dictate the fashion and trends of the culture, as opposed to more so a general statement where there are a lot of different things that amount to one thing. You saw this happen in the 80s synthwave and new wave scene with a lot of men at the time being very androgynous, and so to a lot of people that was very attractive. The aspect of like a man that wasn't afraid to embrace more androgynous or feminine traits, wearing makeup, earrings, dressing in a more neutral way, that was something that kind of dominated a lot of bands, and there are dozens if not hundreds of bands that would have fit that criteria. The internet age has changed fashion a lot, and that is for a couple of reasons. The major thing is widely accessible free expression that comes from the internet, and how much creative freedom and liberty people have to not only broadcast themselves out there, but also have a wide array of things at their fingertips constantly. In the past, Rick Beato brought up a good point, how a lot of the distribution and the labels and the, radio stations, as well as things like MTV, they would sort of choose what they wanted to put out there based on what was widely appealing. Whereas now everyone has their own style and their own aesthetic, because with everything from Pinterest mood boards to TikTok fashion, influencers on YouTube and TikTok and Twitter and Blue Sky and that sort of thing, as well as YouTubers that make entire, makeup tutorials and entire channels dedicated to fashion and how to make things look good and different aesthetics. I mean, nowadays it is more readily accessible than it has ever been before to be able to have a wide array of influences for your fashion. And that goes hand in hand with what killed genres as a whole, but simultaneously made more genres than ever. There's something to be said about the oversaturation of micro labels and everything having a term thrown on it, and I've always argued that this is a good and a bad thing. It's a bad thing because it can be daunting and overwhelming, it can make it difficult and sort of muddy the waters when it comes to what really fits into what box, and it becomes a little annoying and frustrating, especially when it is a little harder to define certain periods, which makes things blur together and blend together and makes it more difficult to understand what defines a specific decade or a specific genre, because no two people are going to have the same definition of what constitutes either the fashion or just the general aesthetic, the sound of anything, because everyone wants to do something different now. But it's a good thing because now more than ever, with a lot of different platforms and streaming things and Bandcamp and YouTube and all of these different social media platforms, it is easier than ever for bands to get the chance to have a platform and to also expand themselves to where people that do like that type of music have more specific terminology to seek out the things that they enjoy. So if they are on Bandcamp or YouTube or streaming platforms, there's a playlist for anything, there's a label for anything, there's a terminology for the most idiosyncratic and specific music that they want to be catered to, that is tailor-made for them. And so it can become a lot easier for smaller bands to get platforms and find their audience easier, or I guess in this case for their audience to be able to find them. And I do think that one thing that Rick gets wrong in this video is saying that it is impossible to find things that dominate specific genres and generations and decades and that sort of thing. I remember the aesthetic of early trap rap. I remember remember how that was very widespread. I saw the rise of the aesthetics that came from South Korea. There's quite a few different ones. A lot of the ones that the male boy bands would do, but also the girl groups as well. And then you saw stuff coming out of Japan, like the visual kei movement, which a lot of people started to adopt. You saw the massive rise of hyperpop aestheticism, which if you look at artists like the late Sophie or artists like Arca, you can definitely see a specific vibe, or the Charlie XCX burnt out type of thing. You have an entire movement of alt people, which is its own thing, and it's very different from like gothic stuff a lot of times, but a ton of alt creators have put that on the map, sort of the Hot Topic look, which obviously has existed for quite some time. You have the e-girl movement that came from a lot of streamers at the time, and music genres like Corpse would make, and that sort of stuff. So while I understand the sentiment that maybe genres seem like they are dead, I feel like the one thing that he confuses a little bit in this video is genres are not dead or going by the wayside, and if anything, there are more genres and movements than ever, but because there are so many genres and movements and you can find 1,000 different things with one Google search, it becomes a question of if there is too much oversaturation, if things are hard to define. And it genuinely just depends on how you look at self-expression and self-identity and how you appreciate or don't appreciate people literally being able to just do whatever they want, whenever they want, and no one having a consistent definition of what any specific thing is. But I could sit here and just off the top of my head rattle off dozens upon dozens of different movements, fashion and aesthetic-wise, that are very widespread right now, and many of those are influenced by music genres. But with that being said, it is a very compelling video. It's a really fun topic to try to think about, and I want to hear what your guys' opinions are of it. I highly suggest going and checking out his video as well, and sharing your opinions and me of your thoughts of this topic. Agree or disagree, there is no wrong answer. I can't wait to hear it. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is, my name is Jay Morris, and I'm signing off saying farewell.